Well, that's all for you.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. How far back does it go? I can only see the first. It's like the Academy Awards. You just see the first 3 rows.
We heard backstage the reaction to tonight's program, can our political system be fixed? And I think it is the fundamental question to the success of our democracy today. I'm not sure you're going to like what you hear tonight, but I promise you, you will understand better why you don't like it. So
that's a low bar. But probably at the right level, though, because it's a tough,
let's
hell of a challenge. I don't think I'm godly enough to know the full answer, but I can probably give you a pretty good diagnosis and maybe some leads. But it's not a fix. There's not some deus ex machina that's going to come in, we're going to change the electoral college, or we're going to get rid of all, what do you call it, gerrymandering, and we're going to fix it that way. You don't fix it from outside. It's got to be fixed by what the voters are demanding, what you insist upon in people that run for office. And you say, if you don't meet that standard, I'm not voting for you. You got to get really tough as voters, I think. And then you got to say, we're going to find some people that are like that, and we're going to raise them up. We're going to raise up people that really are public servants, are not just pals. We got enough pals, politicians. We need people that have bigger interest than just surviving in office till they're 85 years old. And we got too many of them, too many time servers that just want to hold on, and they like it like it is. They do like it like it is. That's the big difference between the voter and the politician. The voters like it the way it is because they're there. You know? It works for them. The fundraising, the going over to the call time room. Here's a place you really should familiarize yourself with. A block from the Capitol are 2 offices, the Democratic headquarters and Republican headquarters. You know who's there all day? 9 to 5, members of Congress on the phone raising money. They have a staffer sitting next to them, pushing them to do it. Sometimes they get so depressed doing it, they talk to a busy signal just so they can pretend they're doing it. They're so embarrassed doing it, but that's what they do, because that's the price of admission to be a congressman. And I knew a guy, because he works for me now, whose job it was to put them in a van when there's a vote on the floor, drive them over to the Capitol, vote them, and then send them back to the call time room. They're your members of Congress. Their number one goal, stay there. The way they stay there, raise money. Begging for money all day long. And this was our solution to keep them away from the big givers. Remember? This was to keep them away from the huge fat cats. So this is the way it is now. And they like it, or else they wouldn't be there. They have their solution to America's political problem. They get to stay. And they get to stay by raising the money to get them reelected and scare off opponents the next time. So we got to start thinking about the kind of people we want and what standards we're going to set for them. It's a tough business. And
let me
the
take you
answers
back.
are not easy.
Let me take you back for a minute, Chris.
How many people knew about that before? Did you know about the call time thing? Yeah, they keep it secret. It's embarrassing.
Yeah. For those that don't know, Chris has a great deal of experience in government and legislative affairs. You worked for Jimmy Carter. You were the chief of staff for the Speaker of the House, Tip O'Neill. Tip O'Neill was a Democrat who worked closely with the Republican president, Ronald Reagan. They'd often get together on work days after 6 o'clock and have drinks.
Well, that's a little bit of an ethnic slur, okay? I mean, really, I know it's cute, but, it's not actually true. Reagan didn't drink at all, hardly at all. And Tip didn't drink at work. But they did get together in a way that was more functional than that. These 2 guys didn't agree on anything. They were very patriotic, old school but they didn't really disagree, and they weren't exactly buddies, but they had this thing. They decided from the time Reagan got in that they're going to work together. They're going to go to the St. Patrick's Day parties together, and they're going to have birthday parties together. They're going to do a lot of things you talk about. But it was really about keeping the door open so they could talk. As Kirk O'Donnell, who was the chief counsel of the Speaker, said, always be able to talk with your opponent, like in marriage. Be able to talk. Once you stop talking, it's over. And so they kept that door open through these social times they spent together. But what really separated them from these pals today is a sense of urgency. They're both in their 70s. They both realized that they're not going to have another act. This is the act. This is the final act for both of them. And they were going to get it done. And we had the Cold War around us, which made everything, you don't remember the Cold War. It was real. It wasn't some conspiracy theory. There really was a global contest between us and the Russians. And they knew they had to deal with things. Social Security had to be saved. The tax system had to be fixed. Immigration had to be fixed. And every time they went after one of these things, they said, we're going to make this work. I don't see anybody doing that today.
But there's a sense of urgency.
Make it work.
There's a sense of urgency today.
Not from the politicians. They'd rather have the issue than have the solution. They love the issue. They love being pro-Hispanic because that gets all the Hispanics to vote for you. The Republicans like the issue of immigration because all the people who don't like Hispanics vote for you. It's the way it works. Somebody's laughing. This is the horror of our political system. The issue is the solution for these people. They want to keep it alive. If you solve it, how do you win? And so they keep look at most of the Tea Party districts. They hate illegal immigration. They hate it. They love hating it. They get up in the morning and hate it. They hate it all day. Why do you think Trump got elected? Anti-illegal immigration. And he played it like a banjo, and they loved him for it. And the Democrats come along scooping up the votes that he throws away and says, oh, now we love the Hispanics. Both sides are playing the game. You say to them, what's your solution? The way it is. The way it is the solution. Why do you think it's there? Because both sides like the policy, like the issue of debate. They just love it. And this is true of a lot of things in politics today. Unfortunately, the best answer for most politicians is the way it is right now because that keeps me elected. If I'm in a conservative district, I run against Hispanics. If I'm in a more diverse district, I run for Hispanics. They both play the game.
But there must be some people cooperating.
Where are the bills? Where's the bill?
Yeah.
Where's the bill? I don't see any immigration bill. Where is it?
Well, the last 8 years.
2013, they had a bill, and I give Chuck Schumer credit for that. I give the late Ted Kennedy. I give credit to the grown-ups. There's only a few grown-ups, by the way, in the Hill. They really like Feinstein should have been president years ago. Grown-ups who act like grown-ups. You know, you can meet them. Here's a grown-up. They can tell. Trump's not one. Well, does anybody think he is? So those guys put together a bill that passed. It had in it all the ingredients of a successful bill. It said eventually, if you come here illegally, you can find a way to become a citizen over 10 or so years. But if you really want to do it, you're going to do it. And it's worth becoming an American no matter how long it takes, if you ask me. But it also required that we're going to have no more illegal hiring, no more games, no more bringing people into the country to work cheap for $1 an hour or whatever, and sweat their butt off so they can stay here. No more sneaking people in, no more illegal hiring. That's done with, and that is the magnet for people coming here. So it was a good bill, and it wouldn't even get in the House because the red hots in the House wouldn't let Boehner bring it up. So the Tea Party people wouldn't let it pass. So they'd rather have people coming in the country illegally, this problem continuing and festering and making people angry about it. More anger, the better for them. So they didn't want it solved. You got to understand, don't believe politicians when they say they want a solution. What's happening now is their solution. The issue is their solution. Do you understand? Federal deficits is their solution. Problem, we want to spend more than we have. Solution, deficits. That's their solution. And they say, isn't it terrible we have deficits? No, it isn't. You guys could raise taxes. You could cut spending. You could balance the budget some other way. Oh, I got a solution. We run up deficits and we keep doing it. That's their solution. They call it a problem. It's how they get reelected.
But there must be some place where the Democrats and Republicans can find compromise. I mean, infrastructure. I mean, aren't the Democrats going to?
They want the issues to be hot because how do you raise money? I'm not going to play partisan because it's very similar on both sides now. What the Republicans did for years is find somebody who's ethnic, and here I am in New York talking about this. It's always a tricky issue, but let's be honest about it. They would find somebody ethnic that they could put on the fundraising letter. These are always 6 pages, single-spaced, regular paragraphing letters that come out in typescript. And you've probably gotten these fundraising letters. They go to people with money. And this is how they raise money. A 6-page, or maybe it's a little longer, single-spaced typescript. It looks like somebody typed it. And in it, they find some bad guy. Now, for years, it was Bella Abzug. That was the perfect foil. Ethnic, Jewish, New York, enemy of the Republican heartland, whatever. Then it was Tip O'Neill. It was Teddy Kennedy. Now they can't decide. It's Pelosi for a while, good ethnic, perfect for her. Looks like she's got some money. That's perfect. And then they think it's Elizabeth Warren now. They're circling in on her. They think that she will raise money for them. So that's what they do. They raise money off what the other party offers up as a leader. And so this is the game. It's horrendous, but that's where the money comes pouring in. I hate her too. I hate that Elizabeth Warren. Let me write a $25 check. This is great. I'm feeling really good. I'm getting her. Sticking it to her. So I'm telling you all the bad stuff. Because it's all true.
So what are we going to do about it?
Well,
I mean, there's got to be an answer. There's got to be something we can do. I mean, the Republicans...
Okay, how about this? And I've been thinking, Bernie, because you challenged me tonight, because usually people don't ask for solutions. But I'll give you some solutions. Next time a politician says they're upset about something, how are you going to get a solution? What kind of bill are you going to fashion that you're going to be able to pass through the Congress? Tell me how you're going to do it. Okay, let's pretend you're all conservatives. You don't like illegal immigration. Okay, that's fair enough. The law's been broken. It can't be a good system. People are coming in illegally. What are you going to do about it? Ask the member of Congress how they're going to get something through Congress that's going to stop the illegal immigration. And then say to them, as long as people are getting hired in this country cheaply, and the first guy in, I like these guys. They come in, they can work on your house. Their crafts when they come in are unbelievable. They can do. You know, I had a guy fix my, what was it? The guy who comes to you is always legal, of course. He's always legal. And he speaks good English, and then the guy shows up who does the work. You know how it works. And I said, on my screen, my wife's been away, and I didn't want her to let her know that somebody's trying to break into the house. And can we fix the screen while she's gone? And I ended up telling her anyway. I always do. But she gets it out of me. But then the kid's about 20, comes in, he fixes the screen in 20 minutes. They get $250 for it. I'm sure he didn't get the money. But that's how it works. We all know how it works. And she asked a Republican who's very tough on illegal immigration, how are you going to stop the illegal hiring? Oh, well, I don't think we can do that. That's too complicated. Yeah, right. Well, if I were in Mexico or Guatemala or Honduras and I wanted to get here to make money for my family and I heard there was a job in Chicago working in a restaurant, I'd be there. I'd get on a boat. I'd get in a plane. I'd climb through the jungle. I'd get there. I'd swim there, but I'd get there for the job. So just tell me how you're going to stop that magnet if you really want to stop illegal immigration. First, I want to ask you, do you really want to stop it or you just like the issue? And the answer is usually the issue. And with Democrats, I'd say, what bill would you enforce if it passed? Was any bill you would pass in the Congress that you would enforce and support enforcing? You won't hear anything. They don't want it enforced. You'll never hear a Democrat. All the Latino groups come on our shows, and they never say they want to enforce anything. They just say, leave them alone, stop the mass deportation. So we go through this cartoon issue. Like we've got, ever since the 86 bill was passed, Simpson and Mazzoli, which everybody thought would work, and they stopped enforcing it almost immediately, but everybody got to be a citizen. 11 million people since then have come into the country. Not their families, just individuals come in illegally. Fine. It's not the end of the world, but some people make it into it. But if you want to stop that, you have to find a way to stop it, which is a combination of getting people to sign up, admit they're here, start paying taxes, start living like a regular American in the daylight, and part of that is eventually they have a stopping point where nobody can come in without paper. If they want to fix it, they can fix it. I don't hear anybody talking like this. Any other country in the world, you could be the most liberal, most American, humane system in the world, but you have to have a system. And neither party seems to want to settle for it. So Trump talks about a wall because he doesn't want to talk about illegal hiring. Guess why? And you know, because the people benefit from it. As I said, the issue serves the interests of the people. That's why we have it. It serves the interest of contractors who want cheap labor. It serves the interest of the Hispanic groups and their families, of course. We know that. That's humane. But ask a politician next time he says, I'm really upset about this. How are you going to fix it? What are you going to do? Well, I'm going to rage against it. I'm going to go downtown and protest it. No. What are you going to do? And I think that's maybe that we have to become very professional about voting. And next time somebody says what they're going to do, say, how are you going to do it? And I remember there's a Huey Carey, maybe one of the best governors of this state ever had. Huey Carey had an ad, I remember. It was the David Garth ad back in '74. He said, he was running against Howie the Horse Samuels. Remember? The guy who ran off-track betting. I know all this stuff. Anyway, I love it. So Howie the Horse was running as a very big front runner. He's a good personality, good-looking guy. Everybody liked him, off-track betting. And then the New York Times, which has never been too favorable to guys like Carey, goes, the portly senator, congressman from Bay Ridge or whatever, some knock. And he said, the Garth ad was great. It said, before somebody tells you what they're going to do, first ask them what they've done. A great ad. He got Carey elected. And I do think you got to ask politicians, what have you done lately? What have you done in that job of yours that we elected to you? What have you gotten passed? Did you fix immigration? Did you work out a compromise on illegal hiring and making people be able to become citizens? Because that's the only way you're going to come out of the dark. You got to offer them something to come out of the dark. You got to offer them a hope that they can become real Americans, legal Americans. They may feel American, but here's a chance to be like your kid and become an American. But the problem is you're going to have to accept enforcement of illegal immigration laws have to be enforced. That's the dirty deal. Like the neocons used to say, the dirty deal was you got to learn English to come in this country. Okay, you can come here, but learn English, damn it. You got to be tough. And I think that voters have to say, or unless you just want the issue when you're 20, 30 years from now, we'll be arguing about the Middle East, right? The latest peace attempt. And we'll be arguing about illegal immigration. The other thing is, I think, you got to ask politicians what they do. I mean, this country, go to D.C. I've always said to people, go visit Washington, you already paid for it. You paid for it, everything's free. Everything's free. The Smithsonian, just get a good hotel deal and go. It's the greatest vacation of your life. It's totally paid for. Every single museum's free. And all that stuff was built because Roosevelt built it in the Great Depression. The Empire State Building was built in 1931 in the Great Depression. I think you got to tell these guys, stop talking and start building.
Okay, let me.
And I really think it comes down to accomplishment and achievement. I'm sorry because you asked me. It's got to stop paying people to talk and start paying them to work.
Well, let me just say something. Don't you think the surprise election by Trump was based on the fact he promised to do things, and people will hold him to the promise? So, I mean, if we're going to, because why else would he have gotten elected?
Well, that's why he got elected. You're on it, Bernie.
I mean,
they thought he would
all the things you're saying are true, but don't you think that people are fed up with the way it is, and that they want it different, and that if he doesn't fulfill his promise, Hillary Clinton's going to run again in 4 years?
Well, I think he ran on three things. Illegal immigration. First of all, he ran on the fact that President Obama was an illegal immigrant. It was that bad. He did this and he got 20% of the vote believing in that. That was his foundation. Let's not kid, it was ethnic. It was an ethnic slur to begin with. The guy's black, he's illegal. You know what he did? He played to the right wing, the racists. He did it very effectively. That's one reason I got a problem with him. I don't believe my ethics teach me the ends don't justify the means. And the means by which he came into public prominence was saying Obama was an illegal immigrant. In fact, he went beyond that and suggested he was a Manchurian candidate of sorts. He'd say things like, very darkly, no one knew him at school. Like he was a complete phantom. Like there's some rich kids come up with a name and they put him through school and he didn't even go to those schools. No one knew him at school. And then one day when it was inconvenient here, Kellyanne or somebody said, you better drop that on a Friday when nobody's listening. And one day he just said, oh, he's a citizen like the rest of us. And everybody, oh, thank you. It's like the speech the other day. He gave a speech, he buttoned his coat, you know. He usually comes walking in like a character with a big tie flapping down around his knees, big overcoat like he's in The Matrix or something, you know. And he walks in like that. Well, the other night he walked in with a suit coat and he actually had a button and he said, oh, he's great. You know, I was telling Bernie, by the way, you should do this at home tonight. Have some fun. Go home and Google Art Carney, one of my all-time favorites. No, Art Carney and Franklin Roosevelt. And blow your socks off because he did the greatest imitation of FDR ever. He used to do it on the radio. And you can see him doing it. Yesterday, December, the whole thing. It's unbelievable. People fall for mimicry. Trump mimicked the presidential address the other night. And everybody said, oh, he's great. No, he's Art Carney, okay? He mimicked a presidential behavior because he said, well, they want it, I'll do one of them. I'll do a turn like that. And everybody, oh, he's great. It's unbelievable to people. I resisted doing that. But, you know, and I go, is that what we want, a mimicry of a president? There's an African-American woman, it was great, she's on Twitter. She immediately said, that's a good speech he read from his speechwriters. By morning, he'll be tweeting again, and that'll be the real Donald Trump. Guess who was right? She was right, because he's tweeting now about being wiretapped. And that's almost as bad as birtherism. Almost as bad as saying our president snuck in the country from Kenya is to say he wiretapped him without any reason except he knew if he threw that out there, his crowd would believe it.
So if you could wave a magic wand and do a couple things to make things different.
I'd say put up or shut up to all politicians. I'd say, look, Chuck, you're a smart guy. You are really smart. Go meet with this guy. I know he's been making fun of you, and he's an awful human being to you. I agree with that. You got all the arguments in the world not to deal with the guy. And Nancy Pelosi, and sit down and let's put an immigration bill. Let's fill it. Like every country in the world can do it. Why can't we do it? We can be more progressive, more humane than other countries. We are the Statue of Liberty and all that. But let's pass a law we believe in that's fair, and we're going to enforce tomorrow morning. We don't need a wall. Let's have no countries don't have walls, but we're going to have an immigration program we're proud of. We're not going to kick 10 million people out of the country. Let's admit that. That's nonsense. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen. So why do we keep talking about that? Why don't we have a system where if you've been here and you've been a good law-abiding, say, okay, throw the felons out. Nobody's going to stop that. And they're not going to cost you a vote on either party. But take the people who've been law-abiding, came here to find a better life like most of our grandparents did, my grandparents, and give them a break. In exchange for that, we stopped illegal immigration. They tried to do this before. It didn't work. Let's make it work this time. Because we can't have a country based on law breaking. It's not the way to build a country. And the liberals have got to go along with this, the progressives too. And put up or shut up, make them say no to that. And then when he says no to it, the Democrats will be able to say, the voters next fall, we had a program, we offered it up to them, it was a good compromise. We didn't particularly love it, but it was the best way to end this division and actually have a country that's proud of its borders again and its enforcement. It's doable. And I think the Democrats ought to have a big infrastructure. Get rid of that word infrastructure, by the way. That's a terrible word. Come up with a word, building program. And start with the Foley Post Office building. Turn it into Penn Station. Let's start with that. Because it's not really. Pat Moynihan was my hero, and Pat Moynihan said, people arrive in New York like rats instead of princes. You arrive down in a basement in this cellar. It's awful down there. And it's unbelievable, New York, when you get here. This great city of the world, and you get in a rat basement you arrive in. And I'm telling you, at Foley Square, there he is. It actually looks like a train station. You can make up for the hell we did back in the 50s and 60s when we tore down all the good train stations and rebuild the country. I think people like it. I think LAX is a dump, LAX export. And he's right about that. You go to Cape Town. By the way, I'd go further than Trump. I've been to the Teja Bay in France, some of us have, 300 miles an hour. You don't even know you're moving. You think it's a film going past you, it's so fast. The same up in Switzerland, the same in China, the same in Japan. Fast rail is the greatest, safest way to travel. Everybody loves getting on trains. Why don't we have a train system in America? I took Amtrak out west with my son Thomas last year. It took 3 or 4 days. I sort of liked it. The only people on the train were some, who were they, Mennonites. I mean, because trains aren't really worth getting on in this country. Look, we could do this if we cut the deals. And they don't seem to want to cut deals. I mean, I know how you get rid of, like, you complain and hope for a recession. Or you hope for an impeachment. Or you hope for the guy to get caught breaking the law. What kind of politics is that? Sitting around waiting for this guy to get caught. That's not the role of a Democrat should have a program. Hillary should have had a damn program on jobs. Democrats are known for Social Security, which will always be good on, Medicare, which will always be, because they created these programs, they'll fight to the death for them. They believe in middle-class programs like that, for retirement especially. They really believe in them. That's why they fight for them. But they used to also be known as the party for jobs, that would create jobs. Since Roosevelt, the party that puts people to work and gives them pride. I heard none of that from Hillary last year. And I'm not a genius. I didn't hear it. Never talked about jobs. And they got to stop looking down on white working-class people. They got to kill that. And that started with Archie Bunker in Hollywood. Let's all make fun of the Irish neighborhood guy. Let's have a lot of fun at his expense. Well, guess what? They paid attention. They did. They heard it. The working class whites heard everybody looking down on them. They said, yeah, I hear that. I'm voting for the other guy. Even though he's probably the worst guy in the world. But I'll vote for him because he sticks it back to those people. I'm sorry if that offended anybody. But Bobby Kennedy knew this. He had to have the working class whites. Moynihan knew it too. You have to have the working class whites and the minorities together. You don't just betray one group to get the other because they get the message. You got to have them all. The Democratic Party should be the party of working people. And I'm not a spokesman for the Democrats. But I know when you stop being the party of the working people, what exactly are you? Is that too hard?
No.
It's what happened. Why do you think they didn't hear that in Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, Erie and Scranton? They heard it. The party's too elite. They said these people care about issues like abortion rights. Fair enough. It's not going to turn them off. And gay marriage, sure, equality is a great issue. I'm for all these issues. But as a friend of mine in Peace Corps, John Catton, he's a regular guy. He used to talk about women this way. He said, people don't mind being used. They mind being discarded. That's profound. Don't treat people like you're discarding them because they resent it.
So let me ask you a question.
And Trump played to them, and they're going to get him again next time.
Trump gives a speech the other day to the American people, to Congress. New York Times calls it one of the greatest speeches ever by a president. Washington Post calls it one of the greatest speeches he ever gave. He calls him the enemy of the people. So if the American people aren't holding him accountable, are the press going to hold him accountable?
Well, yeah, we don't want to make it about ourselves. You can't. I mean, he'd love us to whine. Go ahead and whine. You didn't get in the briefing. Do that again, please. He loves that when we do that, because then we're vain well, some of the guys I work with are, actually. And they'd love us to talk about ourselves, because then we're the bad guys. Look, I don't like what he's done. I think I don't like him discriminating among reporters. I don't like him keeping the New York Times, which is the best paper in the world probably, out of briefings. But the Times can take care of itself. I do not feel sorry. And Elizabeth Bueller is the bureau chief. She's over at the House the other day. I'll tell you, they are the best newspaper in the world, and they enterprise like unbelievable, the stories they dig up. They're all true. They work really hard for him. They got a first-class 40 or 50 reporters looking at Trump. That's what he doesn't like. He doesn't care about opinion people like me. We don't hurt him. What he's afraid of is they're going to get something on him. Wouldn't you be afraid? If I had the Times coming at me with 30 or 40 reporters all day looking for something on me, I would notice I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. And I think Trump has a lot more interesting aspects to his existence than I do. I mean,
do you think the media has treated him unfairly?
They have enterprised stories because he's president of the United States and he deserves scrutiny. His life has been kept secret. His business affairs have been kept secret. His taxes, of course. He's maintained the right to keep everything secret. And so people investigate.
All right.
He's not transparent. I'm not sure. The fact is that, he's in the real estate business. People are going to look into it. They're going to dig into it. They're going to find out how he did, what deals he pulled, what tax breaks he got, who he dealt with. And I don't know what. I think he's not going to show us his taxes, which makes that kind of interesting to a lot of Democrats. I don't think it's much of an issue to keep it up. I mean, you can say it every once in a while just to bother him, but he's never going to show us his taxes.
Okay, so
if
we're going to hold,
we can keep trying.
If we're going to correct our political system and hold somebody accountable, and the media does or does not hold him accountable, the American public not really holding him accountable. They're out marching. They have the different kinds of marches, and then they go home, and then you never hear anything from anybody else. So who's going to make the Democrats? The Republicans got away with it for 8 years with Obama, and look what succeeded. I mean, they ended up getting more state houses representation, more governors. Look what happened in November with the Electoral College and what they did with the Senate and the House. So there's no penalty for any of this.
Look, I will make the case for the Democrats. The Democratic Party is a party that believes in what the government can do positively. It's not an anti-government party. The Republican Party has become an anti-government party that doesn't believe in the government. It doesn't think it's useful. The less would be better. I think if you look at Solomon's story in the Bible, you look at what he said to the two women contesting over whose baby it was. And he said, all right, I'll cut the baby in half. And supposedly, I don't think this other woman existed, but she said, yeah, go ahead and do it. He said, well, it must be the other mother. The real mother's the one who would give the baby away rather than have the baby killed. Well, Democrats are like the real mother because the Democrats really believe in government. They don't want to, I don't buy this. Democrats should behave like Republicans and do scorched earth and destroy and just play the dirty game the other side play. Republicans win when nothing gets done. The more government fails, the more Republicans make their argument. The government's worthless. Every time government achieves, just remember how a lot of us grew up. We came out of World War II where our government and the heroic men and women who fought in that war defeated the Nazis and the Japanese Empire. They won that war starting under attack, playing defense, and we won the war. And then what did we do after we won the war? We restored Japan to a better country than it was before. We restored Europe to a better Europe than it was before. We did that out of utter total generosity, just because we thought we'd be a better world that way, and because we didn't like the communists taking over and taking away freedoms. We were an amazing country. And everybody in that government was a hero. I mean, everybody was. And Eisenhower became president. The guys who came back, a lot of them got elected to Congress. They became the people that run the country, like Jack Kennedy through the 60s. It was an amazing afterglow of achievement. We put man on the moon. We really did. Kennedy said, we'll do it in 10 years, and we did it. And government could achieve what it set out to do. I think you got to restore the confidence. You want my answer? Restore the confidence that government can do what it says it's going to do. And the more you achieve, you do some building, put people back to work, you fix the immigration system, you stop going into stupid wars, you stop wasting our assets in wars that should never have been fought, and you start, and a bit of conservatism in that, I think you can do it. I don't think there's anything complicated about fixing things. If you just get away from the cheap politics of raising money on issues, of doing everything to get your people red hot so they'll give you a lot of money, and then you can get to stay in office, or you get the ambassadorship you've been after, which is a lot of politics too. So I think it's doable. I don't think we have a wonderful mathematical system. I say 7, you say 9, 8. When it comes to 9, some issues are always going to be intractable. Abortion rights, I do think, though, we have a very good compromise now. I think Roe v. Wade was I know it may have had nothing to do with anything else except good political. human sense about a woman's right to make a decision, certainly during the early term, and as it progresses, it becomes more complicated. But most people would say that was a brilliant way of solving it, and not have the government pay for it. Now, Hillary comes along, she wants to have late term, she wants to have the government pay for it. All the pro-life people go crazy in the other direction. There's such a thing as a compromise. Nobody wants to hear that anymore in politics, but it's the only way to get something settled for the next 20 or 30 years, and then you look at it again. Compromise is a good word. So you ask me how to fix our system, have the Democrats like Chuck, who's good at this again, and Durbin and the rest of them, go up to Trump and say, let's deal on this. Let's get this done, because you're going to need 60 votes to build that stupid wall, which you're not going to get from us. But you're going to get 60 votes from us if you really do put in a fast rail system, or you fix our old decrepit infrastructures in big cities like New York. We'll help you on that. We'll give you 60 votes on that. Shut up about this other stupid wall, because we're not giving you a vote for that. To start negotiating tough and stop doing it on television. Get in the room with them and say, here's what we got for you. And by the way, when the debt ceiling bill comes around, you'll need 60 votes for that. We ain't giving you nothing. This government's shutting down unless you deal with us. The Democrats have a lot of leverage if they'd use it to negotiate getting something done, not just we're going to threaten you with this, but we can get something done now, and we can make you a successful president on some of these issues. But you don't play ball with us, we're going to bring you down. You're going to get nothing.
So what
done.
happens to our...
So it's all about accomplishing. So I have one message here. If you want to achieve, you got to compromise. But if you compromise and achieve something, we're going to get out of this crap hole we're in right now, where nothing's getting done. If you want to do that. But if you're a politician, you want to get reelected, I can't help you. Because if all you want to do is get reelected, it probably is smart to just complain about illegal immigration, or complain on behalf of the Hispanics, or complain about this or that, and you'll probably get reelected. But you know what? I'm not rooting for you anymore, if that's what you're here for, just to have an issue. So.
But things could get really bad. I mean, first of all, the Democrats most likely are not going to do that. They're going to oppose everything. I mean, look, Hillary didn't have a lot of good programs. She didn't have an economic program, for example. And the Republicans, at some point, are going to come up with a tax plan that they've been eager to do.
Oh, value-added tax?
Yeah, they're going
to. That'll help them.
But they're going to do something, and they're going to get away with it because they got the votes to do it.
Well, they don't need 60 votes on a tax bill. You're right. They can do it with 50.
Yeah,
but they could sink themselves if they add a national tax on sales.
Right. And then they're going to replace Obamacare with a bunch of incentives that could really backfire. I mean, didn't Trump say, if we change it, you're going to own it, or something to that effect?
A guy or woman making 20 or 25 a year, less than 30 a year, tax incentives don't really work.
They're not going to work.
There's no federal taxes to begin with. You can't give people, you're ending up giving them a check, which is just another subsidy. I mean, you can call it a tax refund, or refundable is the word. But they never paid the taxes in the first place because they're not hit at that level.
Right. And many of the Republicans are not going to go along with it in the first place. They're not going to take the good parts of Obamacare, with the exception of pre-existing conditions and being on your plan until you're 26. That's the only thing they're going to accept.
Look, I would negotiate. If I were Chuck, I'd negotiate. I'd say, look, we like this bill. If you can find ways to improve it, we'll listen. But we want to keep Obamacare. And we can negotiate it, or we're not voting for it. And we're going to run against it.
Right.
But we're going to help you fix it if you want to fix it. But we're not here to bring it down. I really think we can do this. I mean, smart legislating. I'm here because, Bernie, because you talked about, I worked with Tip, and what they did was Social Security was going down the drain in '83, and the Democrats were killing the Republicans. You know what they did? They got in the back room. Alan Greenspan, Robert Ball, these experts, Jack Lew, who worked right next to me, and then became... Jack had a big part of that. Jack, now Treasury Secretary the last couple of years. And they got in the room and they figured it out. And it was like almost choreography. They said, well, if you slow down a cost of living adjustment, that'll save the government a huge amount of money by a quarter, because then over time it never really catches up again. And we'll do something about making it means tested, because we'll make a larger proportion of the benefits for people who make over 20 a year or something susceptible to taxes. And they worked out a compromise. And then it was almost like a kidnapping, because it was so tricky. Neither side really trusted each other. So they worked it out so Reagan would announce at a certain hour one day that Tip O'Neill had agreed to it. He would announce that Tip agreed to it. It was a very closely run thing, and they saved Social Security, but they decided they're going to make it work. And they did this with tax reform. They got the top rate down to 28%. Of course, the lobbyists got a hold of it years later and screwed up the system. A 28% tax top rate was pretty good. Most Americans say, wow, because they got rid of all the junky tax breaks to pay for it. Now, And they also equalized Social Security, earned income with cap gains, which bugged the conservatives. But they found a way to bring it down. And I think these are compromises that are doable. And it was just different back then. When Gorbachev came in and we knew there was a chance to get hope because Maggie Thatcher met with him and thought, this guy's different. He's not an old Molotov type. Tip and Bob Michael, who just died last week, went over to see Gorbachev first and told him something that politicians don't do anymore. He said, we only have one president. Don't talk to us. No side deals with the Congress. None of this BB thing. None of this coming to Congress and talking to them working against a president. None of that. You work through our one president. And number two, this guy's serious about arms control. Believe him, because Reagan was serious about arms control. And that kind of patriotic collaboration was not unknown in those days. You know, and I think Tip would write a secret letter to Reagan about Northern Ireland. He said, I'll never tell anybody about this. He never did. If you'll just get Maggie to work with the Northern Irish Protestants, Catholics, and they end up bringing the thing to a peace treaty. And we don't have the killing over there now. You can work it out if you want to. If you're a grown-up, you can find ways to compromise and work with each other. I got along great with Kenny Duberstein and Mike Deaver. We all knew each other. I even knew Molly North. They would come in the office. You'd know them. I'd call up, Kenny, can I go to this thing that's G7Me? My wife's covering it. You reported then? Yeah, sure, I'll get you a pass. There was a friendship. King Sabuza died where I was at the Peace Corps. I said, I know you don't have a lot of guys who want to go to King Sabuza's funeral, but I'd like to go. And Kenny put me on the plane. So, I mean, there was a lot of friendliness that would be nice to have. It's very hard to do this with Trump, I admit. This is I don't want to become best friends with Steve Bannon, probably. But, I mean, I don't think I have a lot in common, but I don't know. It's a tough challenge today because of this unusual president.
In the 1990s, I represented Paul Tsongas.
Yeah. Well, he was exactly the guy I was talking about. He would make any deal to fix it.
Great guy. And I remember him taking me over to the Senate, and there used to be a room over there where senators would get together, and they wouldn't sit by themselves. They wouldn't sit all Republicans and all Democrats, but they'd mix, and they'd end up talking, and it would be a time of open discussion. Oh, really? And another thing that took place with senators was that they lived in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, that's gone.
And they're gone. They leave their families, like Trump leaves his wife back in New York. They leave their families. They come here and they all get together.
Newt told members of Congress who got elected in '94 to leave their wives back in the district.
Right.
That really improves marriages dramatically.
Plus it gets them all housing together. All the representatives, you get 6 or 7 of these guys together. They all talk at nighttime. They all get a strategy to fight the other guy.
Look, I was on trips where, and there's always a downside. CODELs, they're called, congressional delegations. And inevitably, after 4 hours in the air, you go see Lynn Martin, a Republican from Illinois, and we start talking. Or Bill Emerson from Missouri. You always look at the eye. You get on a plane, you know who the other party is. And you give them that first look, like, you're the other party, aren't you? Yeah. And you know within 4 or 5 hours you're going to be talking, being best friends. It just happens. And then, you say hello and I do defend it because everybody says junkets are terrible, but they do serve a purpose, and you get to know each other over a long period of time. I mean, that's how Hillary got very popular in the Senate. She should probably still be in the Senate. That's probably was the solution there. Because she really got along. She knew how to deal with other people. She could deal with McCain and Lindsey Graham, and she wasn't one of the amigos, but she was. That was probably a good role for her.
One of the questions from the audience.
Looking back, I see how she was a good senator.
One of the questions from the audience is, do the protests ever work? And the question is, are we as voters just bystanders, and we're putting up with this? I mean, are we just going out and marching for a day and going home and
how about going to your next meeting and saying to the member of Congress, how are you going to fix this?
Yeah, but
how are you going to fix it?
Look at all the people screaming at town halls.
You have to say no. You say, how are you going to fix it? What are you going to do to make this? What kind of deal are you going to strike? Can you find a compromise? Can you make this work? Are we going to be back here 2 years later yelling about the same stuff? And just make them do it. Force here. By the way, the march on the women's march was very powerful, and I don't think we've seen the end of its importance. My wife was there, all my in-laws, all the women were there, and some of my in-law males. I can't go to these things. They were all there, and I think it's starting something. I think that woman in Hawaii who cooked this thing up, and then, of course, Emily's List and all the other groups jumped on it, but she was the one that did it, and she just wanted to make a statement after the election. And I used to go to these things in the 60s. I went to the March on the Pentagon, and Certainly the March on Washington in '63 had a lot to do with the Civil Rights Bill coming the next year. I think mass protests work. I think if politicians are paying attention. But I also think going to these meetings would be a great thing for anybody here to do. I mean, go and Karen Maloney or anybody here, I mean, sit at the meeting and say, how are you going to get this passed? How are you going to work with them on the immigration bill? How are we going to, is it going to be arguing about, say this to them, are we going to be arguing about this 2 years from now, the same exact argument because you guys haven't figured it out? Trump's a deal maker. He hasn't done anything yet. He sits there with no ideology that I can understand. It would seem to me that my test, all I can say if you're a Democrat, force them to say no to a good deal. And I don't know why the Democrats don't have an immigration bill. I know why they don't, but they should have one. Why they don't have an infrastructure bill. Why don't they have something, so you know, in Britain, for example, you know what the Labour Party's for, because they have a program. They even have a shadow cabinet. You know, you can always know where they stand. We're the Democrats, waiting for Trump to get impeached. Yep. It's probably not going to happen. I mean, it's a rarity. Impeachment is.
I mean, the question I'm asked mostly is, you know, what's the odds on Trump getting impeached?
Well, we don't. I mean,
instead of the system being fixed or something different happening.
To get a 2/3 vote in the Senate, which is a Republican Senate, a 2/3 vote.
Never happened.
For conviction. There's some. I bet there's 50 Democrats in the House that vote for impeachment now, but they don't matter. They're from 100%. These districts are so overwhelmingly one side. You can't lose a primary in either party now. That's the problem. All you have to do is be polarizing and you'll get reelected. Just yell louder than the other guy.
Yep.
That's true. Look how long it took to beat Rangel. He just finally gave up. But you're an incumbent. It's very hard to beat an incumbent in a primary. And they just hang in there. They don't ever lose. And so they got nothing. They don't worry about meetings like that. But you can force them, I think, eventually scare them into thinking, you know, we want you to do something. We want you to find a solution. We want that kind of politics, successful politics, not just raging against the night.
All right, another question from the audience. I already know the answer. Do you think Hillary would have been good for the country? She would have gotten things done? I mean, we've only been 5 weeks.
I don't know. I accept the result that we knew where the fight was going to be, and she didn't go there to fight it. We all, on television, if you ever watch shows like mine, we all did the same thing. We said the fight was going to be in Ohio, Florida. We didn't think you'd get to Michigan. We thought the front line would be North Carolina, Florida, and Ohio. We didn't realize that Trump would win those 3 states and then go on and win Wisconsin and Michigan as well. The reason I think it happened is the polling was wrong at the state level. It was pretty good nationally, but it was wrong at the state level because people in those states weren't honest with the pollsters. They didn't want to say they were for Trump. And this guy was telling me about the Susquehanna poll in Pennsylvania, where I'm from. They ran a regular poll, and Hillary won by 8 with a person on the phone. Then they ran a robocall, a call with a recording, and Trump won by 2, which is what happened. Because people who were for Trump didn't want to say so. And my fellow progressives on television now rave about how great Trump's doing, how badly he's doing. His numbers now are better than they were right before the election. He's about 42. He ended up getting 46, but in the primary, in the last polls taken before the election, he was in the mid-30s. A lot more people voted for Trump than said they were going to vote for him. So when you ask them now who's for him, they're not going to give you an honest answer. They don't trust the media, and they don't trust pollsters. And so they're not going to give us an honest answer. The polling, if you haven't noticed on my show, I get mad every time my producer says, let's show a poll. I said, you guys should go hide somewhere. I don't want to hear about polls, especially about Trump. They're not credible. Trump does much better with secret voters than you can ever find out in a poll. They just won't tell you. And it's a fact. He won.
So what does that say? It says that,
they don't trust
that the public doesn't trust anybody.
They don't trust the media, and they figure pollsters are probably the media.
And maybe they don't trust the government. I mean, look at all the programs you're talking about, like Medicare and Social Security and things like that. They've been around a long time. I mean, if I was a business popular, yes, but how long are they about to go bankrupt?
Well, let me just tell you.
And if I was a business executive, and that was my program that I started my company on, that program would have been a lot different. Well, yeah, I wouldn't be doing the same program I was doing 40 years ago.
Well, Trump is talking about, a big collective bargaining on drugs, and I think it's true. A guy, I was just riding a couple months ago, a guy told me, he has the same problem I have, not a problem, it's diabetes. And he goes, over in France, he was just over there, and they have a social system over there. He said the price is 1/5. I believe it. And even if you have insurance, you know how expensive it is. And you go, maybe there would be a nice sort of collective way of buying wholesale buying of drugs, get the price down. Trump's talking about that. I don't know how much it would save, but people are very suspicious about the price of drugs. And that is the big cost of medicine today. People, medicating themselves. So I think it's, but I'll tell you one thing. My dad retired and he loved Medicare because he said in his whole life it was the only thing he ever got. That somebody gave him. He paid into it, obviously, but it actually was there for him. He loved his doctor's appointments. Somebody told me that Sid Caesar, before he died, I was always, like a lot of us were Sid Caesar nuts, and he said he goes, he didn't get out of the house much out in Hollywood, but he would go out to see his doctor on Wednesday. He said, that was my social life. But that was pretty funny. But I just think Medicare's popular. I just know it is. You don't touch it. And Trump knows that. And he's not going to, he knows about Medicare. He's smart about that stuff. He knows what to lay off. And he's going to have to deal with with Obamacare, because Obamacare, he'll say things like, I really like the guarantee you can, if you have a pre-existing condition like me, you can still get, oh yeah, everybody likes that. And I like the fact that people in their 20s still get covered by their parents, but I like that too. But those two are founded on the idea of everybody joining in, so it's a shared cost. Right. If you don't have everybody insuring themselves, young kids in their 20s aren't going to buy insurance. They're going to get on a motorcycle without a helmet and have a great time because they can't imagine life not being great and safe. It is. It is. The odds are great. You're going to make it through your 20s. They're really good. But if you don't, it'll be bad. But you're probably going to make it. It's a really good deal.
And the problem with tax incentives is if you don't have the money to pay for insurance,
you're not going to buy it.
And you're not paying taxes. I mean, there's a percentage of our country that aren't paying taxes.
That's why
so how are they going to get it?
That's why Social Security works, Bernie.
Right.
Because I once said to my dad, why do they have Social Security? He said, well, here's why. Because a lot of people don't save. They can't or they won't. And they have to be forced to save. And Social Security makes them save. So they will have money when they get old. It's the best anti-welfare program in history. It works. And anyway, my point is, I think if we force our politicians to make deals, they'll make deals. If we don't want deals, we want perfection, wait for heaven. Because you're not going to get it from politicians. I just mean it. I think I've lived in politics. It's deal making. It's a civil rights bill. Johnson working Dirksen, getting him to come aboard. It's compromises like Roe v. Wade was a compromise, and it worked. I think we're a pretty grown-up country, and it's time for us to start acting like kids, like we want it our way. Grown-ups know you have to make compromises. We make it with our families. God, don't we? All the time. Don't we make compromises with everybody? It's what life is. And I think, they don't do it in politics because they know there's advantage in just yelling loud and saying, I want it this way. And we vote for these people.
So
it's terrible.
One of the questions is, what's the future of the two-party system? I mean, if we're going to do what you don't want to call a building program, and a section of the Republicans don't want to spend the money to do that.
Yeah.
So now you've got a splinter in the Republican Party. Now you're getting a splinter in the Democratic Party as well. Either, you're going far left or you're middle of the road. So what's the chance of keeping two parties, or are we going to have two parties and two parties within a party?
Well, that's the leverage that Chuck's got. I should sit down. I think Chuck knows everything I'm saying, so I'm not telling him anything. But he has the power to go to the Republicans and say, Boehner wouldn't have done it. Probably Ryan won't do it. Ryan won't do it with enough guts to do it. But if you need another 20 or 30 votes or 50 votes in the House side to get to an infrastructure bill, a big one, I'll deliver them. And Pelosi could say that. We'll make up for your your Tea Party people. We'll get it passed. You give us a majority of your party, we'll give you the rest. If you want it done. And Democrats have always wanted building programs. They've always believed in infrastructure. And Republicans have always believed in highways. So let's do it. But I'm afraid 2 years from now we'll sit here and they won't have done it because they didn't make the deal. They didn't say, look, we can agree on some things and building up this country again. Our public investment has died. The country is in old-time shape. This country's not competitive in the world anymore, and we're going to fix that. And a lot of this money can be capital investment. It doesn't have to be treated as current expenses. If you build something, you're going to use it for 20 or 30 years. We're still using the subway system in New York. Build it, it'll last, you can use it. And you don't have to expense it this year. But that takes both parties to say we're going to be serious about this and not pee away the money. We're going to spend it on real building. And they can do it, But it's going to take grown-ups like Schumer and Durbin and those guys to sit down with Mitch McConnell. And they're going to say, Mitch, I know you just want to get reelected. I know all you care about is scaring away the next Democratic opponent so you can stay there until you turn into a building. I know that's what you want. These guys all want it. That's their dream. They wake up one morning as a building. They have made it into life. They are the Dirksen building or the Hart building or the Russell building or something or the Rayburn building. I'm here forever. And you got to tell the guy, look, here's a chance to do something. That's what LBJ did with Dirksen in the movie, actually. We all saw that. You want to be part of history and get something done or not? And I'm telling you, I know I sound like, that is the solution. Deal making, compromise, get something done. Urgency, make a deadline. Okay, by September, we're going to pass a big building program in this country, and it's going to be bipartisan. Trump can cut the ribbon. We'll give him that. That's hard because Democrats don't want to let him cut the ribbon. They're afraid his name will be on it. See, this is the problem of politics. But they're going to have to do it if they want it done. Or would they rather run against a president who didn't get anything done? And that's the rub. Would they rather run against Trump, who's never gotten anything done, or join in getting something done for the country while he's president? And that is the cutting edge question. Do they want to be part of a better country, or do they just want their jobs back next time? And that's how they look at it. A lot of voters look at it that way.
Jobs the biggest issue?
No, their job.
No, but I mean, jobs in this country are
They
jobs
love
in this
it.
country.
They complain about the salary. They complain about everything. They don't have all they want, and they have to be. They love being members of the Congress. They love it, and that's why they go over to that little call time room. You know, and dial for dollars all day long, so they can stay there.
So why do we put up with it?
Well, we do.
But we do. Why?
Well, because
We
we
wa-
walk into a Democratic primary and we see whose name's up there. Oh, he's been here a while. She's been here a while. Vote for her.
I mean, who are those people
Oh,
in
he
town
never
halls
make-
that
he
are
never
screaming
say-
and yelling?
Well, those people, I think they're good. Those people on the right are to the right of the member of Congress.
And we
Oh, yeah, that's what I always thought why Boehner could never control his party, because they didn't think Boehner was the boss. The boss is the drunk in the last row at the next town meeting. That's the boss. The
So
guy
what
who
are-
yells out, "You sold us out." And then everybody cheers because somebody
So
yells,
the
"You
only
sold us
angry
out."
people in this
I
country
saw
are the
you
people
hugging
on
the
the right.
president. I saw you with Obama. I saw you with him.
right. So the only angry
it's
people
like-
on the right side,
And the left is the same way now. If you're a Democrat and you compromise, the left
and the
will yell.
and the
They will
left
yell.
the left is angry about what?
Well, they want Trump to go down.
No,
At all costs. I understand the mood. I completely understand. They want him to go down. They want him to fail miserably, be humiliated, and pack up he and Melania and Ivanka and Jared and get in some big airplane and fly away. That's what they want. That's what they want to happen. That's what they want. They want his hair to fall out while he's getting in the plane. They want bad things to happen to the guy. I know this. I'm just talking what I think the country benefits from. But I understand gut politics.
So are we?
I didn't set up the question. And I really think that sometimes being a good public servant is not being a great politician. I think you have to do it. I think there's something in there that's philanthropic to be a great public servant.
If Tip O'Neill was alive today, ahead of the Democratic
Yeah,
Party,
yeah.
would things be different?
Well, he'd be the leader.
No,
really.
no, but
Oh,
I mean,
don't
would
underestimate that.
would things
If you
be
have a leader,
different?
look.
Would he deal with Trump?
Let me tell you about what real leaders are. A leader is somebody that when they say they're going to do it, everybody goes with them. Now, Reagan could say that he was going to do something, and the Republican Party would go with him. Tip would say something, and all the liberals would go with him. So if you're a leader, you look behind you, there are people following you. That's what a leader is. So right now, Trump's got the hot hand. He's not a typical Republican. He's not even a conservative, I can tell. But they're following because they have that Republican thing that Democrats don't even understand. It's called obedience. Democrats are the opposite of this. I grew up, anybody as old as me probably remembers this. You go to a Democratic convention, you watch it on television, and there's usually a woman up there with the glasses on with a chain, and she puts the thing up and says, "Will the delegates please clear the aisles?" And they would do it all night long, and nobody would ever clear the aisles. No, Democrats don't clear the aisles. They're table hoppers. They get some. They're just Republicans clear the aisles. Yes. It's just it's a totally different party. And they vote for Bob Dole year after year, and Nixon again and again. Democrats killed or wounded. It's just true. And now it's a little weird now because they picked the guy with the hot hand. The Democrats picked Hillary. They went reverse roles. By the way, there are people now coming on my show. Watch who's on television now because you know he's running for Trump. Maybe that is the solution. Somebody better than him beats him. I don't see that person yet, the one that's going to beat Trump. I see a lot of hungry people who are wanting to run for president now. And they're attractive, young, physically, I guess attractive matters these days. And I see Cory Booker. He's out there. I see Murphy from Connecticut. I see her. Kamala Harris is definitely out there. Elizabeth's, I'm not sure if that's her thing to run for president, but she's definitely out there as a hero to a lot of people. I think Kerry's running again. Everybody hear that?
No reaction.
John Kerry's running again. I think Martin O'Malley's running again because he told me he's running again. These guys don't quit. And Hillary might run again. You're the first person to put that bee in my head that she might run again. Michelle Obama, I don't know. I don't think so.
I don't think so. So
Hey, yeah, it's like, how can you not say she'd do well if she wanted to be a politician? But yeah, I think she's running too. I like them all out there. I like her. I like McCaskill. Claire McCaskill from Missouri, which is a tough state to win in. If you can win in Missouri, you can win almost anywhere. Amy Klobuchar is very likable, if that matters. Very likable. I think it still matters.
So
Trump isn't
a couple things to sum up. One is that look at the politicians that we have today, and all they want to do is to gain control.
Hold on.
Right?
Hold on. What they got. They like what they have.
Want, right. Republicans want to keep what they have because they haven't had it for 8 years. The Democrats feel hurt and want it back again because they feel cheated out of the whole thing. None of them are going to compromise. I mean,
well,
you may think they're going to.
I'm saying they should.
They should compromise, but who's going to hold, just to answer the question clearly, who's going to hold them accountable? The media going to hold them accountable or the American public? There's only two resources for those people, to hold politicians accountable, or they're going to continue doing what they've done. And then we're going to, another 4 years, we're going to look at somebody else and make the same complaints. We've been just complaining about the same old school problems, the same old deficit problems. I mean, nobody even talks about the deficit anymore.
Because they're not going to, because it hasn't done the damage that people thought it would.
No, but I mean, nobody talks about the problems anymore. Things that are going bankrupt, the deficit, none of those.
You make it sound hopeless, and maybe it is, but I don't think it is. I think the voters know that 90% of the progressives will get reelected next year. The ones you know their names of, they're all going to get reelected. These districts are 90-10, and Berkeley and Philly is 85-15. There's supposed to be some Republicans in Philly where I grew up. I don't know where they are. They're the cops and the firemen. They're still Republicans. New York, find a district that's competitive. There aren't any, except for Bay Ridge and Staten Island. There aren't any in the city. Atlanta, it's all one party. And then you get in the rural areas, and it's about 55% Republican. The reason Democrats don't have as many House seats is because most of their vote is overrun in certain states, in certain districts. And so they have 90% in districts. So you always get a lot more people voting Democrat than you get congressional seats. It's not gerrymandering as much as it's just the way populations. Liberals like to live in cities, conservatives don't like to live in cities, so they move out of cities. Liberals say, I like diversity. I sort of like the cosmopolitan flavor of a big city. They stick in cities. It's just the way it is. And so the cities are overwhelmingly Democrat, and Republicans live out in the country, and they have modest victories, 55, 60%, but they don't use up a lot of votes. And then we realized this implicitly, I think, when we saw the Electoral College, the way it worked. We realized all of a sudden that you can carry California by 2 or 3 million votes, but it doesn't matter. Once you carry it by a vote, it's done. Go run somewhere else. And so the Clintons have always been enormously popular in California. That is their state. I mean, it's just, Santa Monica is just, I've been in this place with the Clintons. He's like the second coming out there. Bill Clinton is the second coming. It's unbelievable. All his sins they consider normal. So it is. It's just a fact. In New York State, of course. But the rest of the country is more conservative. Everybody over 45 voted for Trump. Boomers voted for Trump. Women, 42% of women voted for Trump. That blew me away, 42%. So you got to get back. If you're a Democrat, you got to get back in the fight. And find candidates that can win and look like grown-ups, and there's going to be an election next year, and Democrats should do well in 18 because it's a Democratic year and it's a different electorate, but you never know because not all Democrats vote in midterms.
So generally speaking,
But I think
you sound positive.
I think to me the best candidate to run against Trump would be somebody young, because he'll be 75. Somebody who doesn't smell of the old stuff. It doesn't seem like they've been around forever. And somebody who talks about something that's progressive, but Tom Friedman, anybody watching this morning on Meet the Press? He is so good. Friedman said the next Democratic candidate, I forget the third ingredient, they must be for growth. No more of this redividing up the pie again. American people are so smart, they know that's not true. You don't just take existing wealth and divide it up differently and everybody's going to be happy. You got to have wealth to divide. And you can't just say, you can't be a British Labour Party in this country. It doesn't work in this country. Envy doesn't work as a political motive in this country. It just doesn't. You got to have somebody, or a woman or male, who says, I'm for building up the country, getting the economy growing, and creating jobs. Good ones, high tech, whatever Democrats want to talk about. They don't like talking old jobs, so they talk new jobs. Talk new jobs, talk opportunities, talk to the country. Because the gut reason people voted for Trump really doesn't have much to do with Trump. If you're living in Scranton and you're living on Social Security and Medicare, and he's smart enough to hands off those, stay off them, all you want is your kids to stay within driving distance. That's all you want. Just have your kids so they can drive home every once in a while and say hi to you and hang around and see the grandkids. You want very basic things. Americans are not greedy. They just want a decent life. And Trump promised them that he would be able to do that, to bring back the factories, bring back the smokestacks and the jobs and the good-paying jobs. Only one person in the family had to work, and that meant your kid could stay in the neighborhood, and life would go on the way it was in the 50s and 60s. He can't deliver that, but he promised it, and it was a good promise. And people said, that's the only guy promising in that, so I guess I'll vote for that guy. It makes perfect sense. It's not about hatred or anything else. It's that. And so I think the Democrats have got to go back and say, we are the job-producing party. We're for jobs for your kids. We're for opportunities for kids. We're going to educate them. We're going to give jobs. And we're going to keep talking about that. We're going to stop talking about abortion all the time, stop talking about gay marriage all the time. We're going to focus on the issues that matter to most people, which are economics. And we're going to keep focusing on them. We're not going to get distracted. And even if it's good for fundraising. And I think they got to do it. Because that's how most people, I think Kellyanne, whatever you think of her, she's no dingbat, I can tell you that. She's a smart political person. I've known her forever. And she said people are more influenced by what affects them than what offends them. So we're all titillating about what he said on the bus with the fluffer, with Billy Bush. By the way, what a country. Billy Bush gets fired and he gets elected president. Because the fluffer got in trouble. He was laughing at his commentary, and he got in trouble for that. But I tell you, if you focus on why, do you think working people making a little money, maybe retired, and they're thinking, I want a better country for my kids, and they voted for Trump. That's the Democrats' problem. The fact that they weren't trusted to be that party. The party of Hubert Humphrey and FDR and Jack Kennedy and all those guys and all those people before, Eleanor Roosevelt, that looked out for regular people. And they stopped. And they stopped. They got a little too elite. Too many elite hanging around with celebrities killed them too, by the way. The Democrats' next Carole King concert does not help. She's a great person. But the imagery of that is elite. And it didn't work with the regular people.
And the thing,
Democrats have got to be the jobs party.
The thing is, the way it looks is people are probably going to give Trump more opportunity to succeed than we think now. Yeah.
You think he's got a year? You think he's got a year?
I think he's got longer. I don't think, unless the Democrats come up with that young person who can talk about those issues and talk about what our kids get. And I think the biggest thing for me is, the thing that always bothered me was when I grew up, I was always going to do better than my parents. Today, kids don't do better than their parents.
I know.
And that's not my fault. And, I want to give my kids whatever I can, but it's not my fault that the country has gotten that way. And I think people are angry because of it. And you talk about people in Scranton. I mean, you drive through those cities and you see there's nothing left.
There used to be, 10, 20 years ago, a Blockbuster movie place. That's gone. Now there might be a diner, maybe.
Right.
But there is a lot of rust, big factory shells, they're rusting right there, and that's it. And that's what's it called? Michigan City in Indiana, Spencerville, Ohio. You go around to all these sort of flyover places, and they look at where they are, and we got nothing to lose by voting for Trump, because he's against them. And by the way, here's why Trump won. Everything he said is despicable, is what he said. He would say things about women, which we all know are unimaginable, and he got away with it. He talked about minorities, rapists. They're all Mexicans, are all rapists. What else? Every ethnic group we seem to have a number for. He made all his opponents nicknames. He was a pig in the campaign. He was awful. And people voted for him. Because I think, I had an editor like this, Phil Bronstein. John Brogan edited the paper, and he was the guy married to Sharon Stone for a while. He said, Broder said something about it, he was the editor of the paper. He said, every single thing Phil does has a secondary purpose, which is to shake things up. Everything Trump says, the awful stuff, the politically incorrect stuff, all this stuff is to say, I'm not one of them. Professional politicians learn how to talk. They learn how to say, will not get him in trouble. The pap we get from them all the time, left and right, pap. But they've learned how not to say certain things. And what we've done in our subconscious is say, well, if somebody does say the things that they don't say, then we know they're not one of them. So Trump was very clever in saying, I'm not one of those politically correct people. And people say, well, maybe he's the solution, because they're not the solution. They know how to talk. They know how not to say anything anti-ethnic or anything we don't like hearing. But that's how we know they're professional politicians, and we don't like them. And Trump benefits from that weird way we calculate. And they go, not us maybe, but voters, they go, yeah, I think he's real. He's not a politician.
I was with Bob Woodward down in Vero Beach, and there were 500 people sitting in the audience. And Vero Beach is a relatively wealthy area. And he said, how many people voted out of 500 people voted for Clinton? And about 40, 50 people raised their hand. How many people voted for Trump? Almost everybody left raised their hand. They voted for Trump.
Yeah.
I think to at least wrap up this.
Well, why aren't the polls even close to catching that?
Because Bob Woodward said reporters, not you, of course, but other reporters didn't leave their office. They tried to do it all from being getting on a computer and pretending to be a journalist and not traveling out to the country. Nobody went to Scranton. Nobody went to Indiana. Nobody found out that those little pockets where that Clinton had won years ago they thought was going to go to Clinton was actually going to go to Trump.
Yeah, we went for Hillary when she's running against Obama in the primary.
Yeah.
I figured that one out. I mean, it's not complicated.
But
a lot of us have relatives that we call up, and they're the ones that tell us what's going on.
So I think maybe overall, it's a pretty optimistic outlook. Maybe the American public is saying to Trump, I don't like you, but I'm going to give you a chance because I don't like the politicians more.
It shows they're independent. I think it's a good sign that voters will vote for whoever they think would be in their interest. They think he's in their interest right now. Hillary, I didn't know. I didn't understand the Hillary hatred. And I didn't understand it because I know her. And that's the problem with people like me and you, I think. When you get to know these people, you get a mixed view of them. I know Trump. I get along with Trump when I'm with him. He's not like he is on television. He doesn't talk like that when you're with him. People tell you that. Hillary's a charming person in person. I shouldn't say this because it sounds sexist. She's fun. She has a great sense of humor. She's not as serious as she is on the podium behind a lectern. But, I know them, so I can't have these very strong emotions everybody else has, because if you just know them as public figures, people get very strong emotions about people. And I go, well, yeah, but I know them and they're not that way. But maybe it's better off never to meet them, because that's more honest, because you're just dealing with them as somebody out there. But Trump has a very good sense of the country. This terrible thing he did yesterday morning about the
tape,
wiretapping, that's classic Trump. Make up something completely outrageous. Get it out in the morning. Very important to get it going in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning. Get it going for the news cycle all day. As outrageous as it seems, it'll control the news day. And he was under fire. So in other words, we shift from the Russian connection to that for 24 hours. He lives in hours. Most of us live in lives. No, we do. We live in lives. We know our kids. We know our relatives. We know our spouses. We treat them as we know them, not that hour. unless things are hot. But that hour, he lives entirely in this hour. If he were in here, what will work for me now, right now? I will say something outrageous, but it'll dominate the hour. Obama's from Kenya. Well, that'll get me through the night. And then I'll say sometime, well, he really wasn't. Forget about it. I've watched him do it. He just, so they want me to see if I can act like a president. I'll give them that. I'll go act like a president Tuesday night. I'll give them that hour. Next morning, I'll do what I want to do. Everything's an hour. It's zeitgeist. I remember once I was watching Letterman one night in the old days, and Letterman had a pro football quarterback on. It might have been Theismann or somebody later than that, Elroy or somebody. And they needed somebody in another building to catch the ball at the Ed Sullivan Theater. They just needed some guy to show up in the other. Guess who it was? Trump. Trump showed up. He's standing there in his trench coat, his white khaki raincoat, just to be there to catch the ball. So somebody called him and said, "Do you want to catch the ball from Elroy tonight off the top of the building?" "Yeah, I'll be there." That's how he keeps the news. That hour. Page 6 is his source of information. His favorite newspaper is the New York Post. What's the New York Post live for? That moment, that scandal, that day, gets you through the first cup of coffee in the morning, and that's all it has to do. Something crazy, something Schadenfreude, that makes you feel better.
Let's do a few quick questions, which a little off the topic. Trump has promised to get out of places like Syria, Iraq, Iran, stay away from conflicts. However, he wants to give $50 billion more to the military, and most of the people he's appointed in security areas are all generals.
No.
So,
well, that could be good.
Are they going to go
historically, generals are the ones like Colin Powell, or Rabin, or Anwar Sadat, or Eisenhower. Most great generals end up realizing that war is terrible, and they do everything they can to avoid it. They know what war is. It's not a theory. It's guys coming home with no legs and arms and disfigured in it. People dead. It's killing people. So most military guys wouldn't have sworn to going into Iraq, which killed 100,000 people. For what? I don't know. So most peacekeepers, the great men, if you will, of our era, like Rabin and certainly Sadat and de Gaulle, who really ended the Algerian War just like that, are men who have been through the horror of war and say, "I've learned something you don't know about, bozo. It's horrible. It's not romantic. It's horrible." And we have another guy your age shooting each other. That's what happens, and you get killed, and it's awful. And the Europeans learned that years ago. You don't win wars. Both sides lose them. But so I think I'm not worried about generals. I think they're probably going to be steady. I think funny thing is, Mad Dog Mantis is probably a stabilizer for this guy. Imagine the guy named Mad Dog, and he's the guy that's going to keep you in control. And I think this new guy is pretty good too. McMaster's look like they're willing to stand up to him. Comey's now standing up to him today. He's going to have to do it all, stand up on his own 2 feet and do it tomorrow, but he's standing up to him. FBI, they didn't do any wiretap. There's no FISA finding on this. That never happened. So I think that I've never seen a guy, and the other guy, Mantis, says he's not going to go and take oil. Imagine a soldier dying for oil. I mean, maybe it happens as part of war, but the idea of that being your motive is insane. "Oh, yeah, my kid died for oil." It's unimaginable. Trump doesn't understand. You don't talk like that about war. And so I think it's better. But I do think the problem we have is a president who doesn't understand the very sophisticated challenge of keeping Kim Jong-un under control. Because somebody has got to put in his ear, that little brain of his, that he better not drop that bomb anywhere, even in the middle of the Pacific. He better not drop an atomic bomb anywhere. And I don't know how you send that signal to a guy in that crazed, controlled world of his, but that's the one I worry about. I worry about him dropping a bomb. Imagine if he drops one in Seoul. What do we do then? I mean, what do you do, blow up North Korea? I'm sure that would be the instinct, but what would that do? Kill millions of people that are just denied any kind of sense of freedom at all. What do you do next? So you can't do it next, you got to do it before. And that's what I worry about. Syria is horrible, and we'll see pretty quickly whether he and Vladimir can cut a deal. I guess that's been his goal all along, but Vladimir is going to defend the Bashar Assad regime and the Alawites in that part of the world because they're in with the Shia, and God, that's a tough one. But I don't think he'll take us into a new war. I was more worried about Hillary and being hawkish. I thought Hillary was hawkish, and I always thought that.
Bannon is no Bob Strauss or Jim Baker. So what kind of an effect is he going to have on Trump? Assuming Trump listens to the last person that comes in.
Who's the guy?
Bannon.
I don't know.
He wants to deconstruct the government.
He wants to be a Leninist. He wants to remove.
He's a nationalist.
The nationalist, to an extent, I can understand, but he wants to destroy the systems, the institutions of our country. Yeah, that's a bad thing. I don't know how he got in there, except he told Trump the right stuff at the right time, and he has this sort of. They were in the foxhole together, like Kellyanne, and he owes them. He does have the ability to be ruthless, though. He dumped Rudy.
Right.
Like a bad habit. Sorry, Rudy. He got rid of Christie. So, there's a little of Kim Jong-un in the guy. I don't know if they knew what hit him, but he said, sorry, you weigh too much for me. You're out of here. And I don't think Rudy knew what was coming. But I always thought Rudy had something to do with the FBI thing and the Comey thing. So I always thought there was something there. Former U.S. attorney and all. I think he owes Rudy, but not now.
So
but Bannon scares me. I think Reince Priebus is just a regular pal. Probably not a bad guy. Kellyanne's a political fixer and PR person. Very good at it. Very good at it. And
Sessions?
I think he is what he looks like. Killed him last night. Kate McKinnon killed him. I don't know. I was in Boston last night. I was doing something, interviewing a guy, and they don't have Saturday Night Live on in Boston on Saturday night. I don't know what that was about. They had some crazy show. But that was a hell of a thing. Forrest Gump. Kate McKinnon playing as Forrest Gump. And they're poor. You haven't asked me about poor Spicer. Oh. I mean, if you're going to be played by somebody of another gender, make them attractive. give them a break. Give them a break. The Melissa McCarthy character is just, it's all butch and it's all this table walking around and it's horrible person he's portrayed as. But it's just an amazing put down. What they do on Saturday Night Live is truly destructive. They look. It's not funny if you're the other end of this. Look what they did to Jerry Ford. Jerry Ford was an all-American football star, an athlete, a jock, a great skier, and all. They made him into an idiot, and it worked. And they made Jimmy Carter about that high. He kept getting Dana Carvey, remember? And then they made George Bush into some old fart at a club or something. Remember what they did to him? Wouldn't be prudent and all that. They destroyed him. And now Alec Baldwin is. It's just unbelievable. The way he moves his mouth around. It's horrendous. It just makes the guy terrible. So, it works. So,
wrap it up, I guess. Generally speaking, we don't like Trump, but we're optimistic.
I guess if you walk out of tonight, I think you should remember what I told you about the way they raise money and how bad a system it is, that they really are desperate people trying to hold on to jobs they love. It gives them status, and everybody has status in their life. They want some status to be important. But the way they achieve importance in politics is to survive. And the way they survive is really not causing any trouble, speaking correctly, not making mistakes in the way they speak, but not really doing anything. And I do think it's not too hard to say, I got 2 or 3 things I care about. Next time I meet a politician, say, what are you doing about them? Do you think you can get that done? How are you going to get that done? And maybe the how's the better question than what. Say, how are you going to get that done? And maybe that's just a new standard rather than just keeping the fires going. It's easy to watch shows. Well, mine's really good, but no. But I'm a little different from other people. But I think we're all taking advantage of this polarization, and it's not hard. You can throw the red meat out. I try not to be conclusive on my show. I try not to say, well, Trump's going to be president the next 4 years, at least, and I will call the strikes and balls, and I will hit him every night when he does something I don't like. But I'm not going to say he should be removed, or that's for the politicians on the other side to challenge. Their job is to challenge him, and our job is to sort of comment on it. But We're not the arena. I keep telling my colleagues, the arena is in politics. We're up in the stands. We're the guys wearing camel hair blazers talking about the football game. The game is the politicians, the ones we elect, who carry the credibility of public office into that arena and should be challenging the other side to do a better job of what needs to get done instead of just attacking the other side.
And we should be challenging.
Well, we can do that, but we're in the
too.
stands. We are in the stands. We can be a lot of fun, we get entertaining, and I hope educational. But the decisions are made by the people out there. And we should encourage me to do something. Get something done so we're not arguing about... Democracy is only going to work as long as people believe it's achieving something. And they used to poll people back in the 50s, 60s, and they said, can the government do what it sets out to do? This is after with the moon launch and civil rights and good growth numbers. And people said 75%, people said, yeah, it can do what it wants to do. I mean, I'd agree with it, but they can do it. Try that out today. People don't think the government can get anything done because they've stopped trying. And I really do believe that if most people would get in a room, say, you got 24 hours, cook the deal. Do it. I always wonder why they don't do that. Because they don't want to. Why don't they get in a room, Boehner, I'm sorry, he's gone, Tim Ryan, Paul Ryan, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell, and the president, and sit down, get the staff out of the room, and start figuring out what they can give on and what they can't give on, and what they really want to get done for the country. What do you want to get done for the country? And stick it out. I mean, Jimmy Carter sat in a room with Anwar Sadat and Menachem Begin and came out with a peace treaty. You know? Right. It wasn't going to be there when they went in that room, but it was there when they got out of the room. And I think that's what we elect our politicians to do. They're not surgeons, they're not airline pilots, they're not scientists. They got one ability, politicians. And what a politician should be able to do is to reconcile competing interests. That's what a politician does for a living. Not just give big speeches, not just raise money. Anybody can do that. No, that's what they think is the job, raising money and giving speeches. When the real job of a politician is cutting a deal to the advantage of the country. And how come they never come out and say, well, you know what I did the other day? I got a great deal the other day. Or, you know, we got something done. They don't. They just blast the other side. And everybody goes, that's not getting anything done.
Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.